Like all great TV and movie stars, John Jarratt plays different characters, but he has one standout role, Mick Taylor in the horror drama Wolf Creek. On-screen psychopaths don't get any more menacing or memorable. But in 2017, at the height of his acting success, Jarratt received a surprising and unwelcome blast from the past. A woman he'd known decades before, someone he says he thought of as a friend, claimed he was a monster in real life. She said one night back in 1976, John Jarratt raped her. With that allegation, his career and reputation instantly disintegrated. But as he waited months and months for the case to be heard in court, Jarratt made an incredible decision. He agreed to let 60 Minutes record every moment of the fight of his life. This is the walk to your fate, isn't it?
My long walk to freedom.
You hope? Yeah. John Jarratt is on the longest walk of his life. He's been called back to court. The jury is in. 12 unknown people are just minutes away from deciding his destiny, declaring if he is innocent or guilty of rape.
I'm in a place I don't belong. This should never have happened.
Tonight, we take you inside the court case of one of Australia's favourite and most familiar sons.
This is no performance, this is real life. You only get one shot.
I'm just painted as this black, evil thing that I'm not.
Trust me, I'm feeling as much as you are, I can assure you that.
We're witness to the fight to keep John Jarratt out of jail. What happens to John in that moment?
Look, there's a possibility that he might go into custody straight away.
With his lawyer, Brian Wrench, and the legendary and colourful barrister, Chris Murphy.
John Jarratt is innocent.
And John's wife, Rosa, who believes her husband is the real victim here.
Women can't just call someone out and just say, he did this to me.
All week, John has been in the dock, quietly defiant, but also clearly laid low by an accusation he never saw coming.
To stand there and this guy's saying, you ripped her clothes off, you did this and you did that. And no, I didn't. What am I doing here? What am I doing here? And that story's ridiculous.
This is the John Jarratt we're more used to seeing. On our screens in Picnic at Hanging Rock, sharing the spotlight with superstar and friend Mel Gibson.
How far is the beach from here? Oh, can't you think of anything except surf and sex?
Better homes and gardens.
Winning gongs for his small screen work. And terrifying us as Mick Taylor in the hugely successful Wolf Creek.
What the bloody hell are you mob doing out here? Scared the shit out of me.
It's been a career 40 years in the making. But in 2017, John was accused of rape. The complaint wasn't initially made to police, but instead splashed in the media. How did you actually find out about this accusation?
A phone call.
From?
My then agent. When I'd finished the call, I just sat there. It was just dread, pure dread. And then my daughter tapped me on the shoulder and said, "What's up, Papa?" And didn't take long, did it? And I said, it's really bad. This is really bad. I've been accused of rape and it's going to be in the newspapers.
Rosa, what do you remember from that conversation, from that phone call?
Well, it's not a phone call that you expect at all. And, you know, the shock sets in and it's very traumatic. You just know that it's going to be so public and it's such a personal thing.
How's that? You messed about, I caught you out. How's that?
It was 1976, and John Jarratt was a 23-year-old rising star with 3 movies already to his name. It was here in Sydney's Randwick that he and wife of 2 years, Rosa, shared a house with a flatmate. 4 decades later, despite an ongoing friendship, the woman would accuse him of a violent rape. Yeah, so going back 43 years,
Yeah.
this was home.
Yeah, it was, as you can see, it's a beautiful home, but I'm looking straight at the bedroom where this alleged event happened. It's like a horror mansion to me now. It's just awful.
The allegation, in all its detail, is awful and damning.
She says I came into the house drunk at 3 a.m. I smashed the door open and I woke her up by ripping the sheet and blanket off the bed, followed by ripping her underpants and her T-shirt off in one foul swoop. And then I had this huge leather jacket, which I did have. Apparently I was wearing it. And then, without undressing, I got on top of this woman, held her arms down, held her legs down, and then held my hand over her mouth and somehow raped her fully clothed, and then got off, and she didn't make a sound. And that's how she describes it, which is absolutely ludicrous.
John denies he's a rapist, but admits, with some shame, that night in 1976, he was a cheat. It seems inconceivable. Rosa was asleep in a nearby bedroom, and yet John had consensual sex, a one-night fling, with his former flatmate, who can't be identified. John, what did happen on that night?
I came home from a meeting at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Everyone was in bed. It was a weeknight. I came out of the bathroom and she loud whispered to me, John, and I went over to her door. It was slightly ajar. She said, come in and tell us about the meeting, because she didn't want to wake everyone up. So I came in. She started saying how exciting it must be to be in movies, and she's found me attractive, which is sort of seductive. I weakened to that, and one thing led to another, and I had consensual sex with the person, and then I went back to my wife, and I felt guilt and remorse, and I had just made a huge mistake.
I do have to ask you, John, I mean, is there any way that what you viewed as consensual sex, she thought was rape?
No, absolutely not. I believe that she started the seduction, and my problem was that I acted on it. And I was caught in the moment, and a very weak-willed moment. And we had consensual sex. It's the only sex I've ever had, and I'm not a brutal person.
Were you drunk at the time?
No.
When you reflect on that night, how can you explain it, even to yourself? I mean, I know you say it's a weak moment, but such unusual circumstances, such a strange opportunity.
Well, it's really stupid. I was only 23, you know. It's dumb immaturity, and what was I thinking? My wife was in another room. So it was a pretty dumb thing to do.
In 1984, John told Rosa about his bewildering indiscretion with their friend and former flatmate 8 years earlier. He did so not under threat of a rape allegation, but rather to bring honesty to their now troubled marriage. When John made his confession to you, what was your reaction at that point?
It's painful. It's painful to hear that, you know, there's been an infidelity in a relationship.
Were you shocked?
Yes, yes, yeah. It's betrayal. It is shocking to know that a friend has betrayed you. It's shocking to know that your husband has betrayed you.
Coming up, the cost of betrayal. Were you able to forgive John? The most important role of his life.
And once the jury starts, it's just going to go up, down, all around. You know, like I said, this is not a game.
As the legal roller coaster takes the whole family on a terrifying ride.
Lies? My God, I haven't done anything to you. I haven't.
That's next on 60 Minutes.
the waterfall?
Yeah, it's up there. It's running, only just.
John Jarratt and his wife Rosa are happily together again. 2 years ago, they wed a second time after their first marriage, 45 years ago, ended in divorce. John wants his first wife to be his last wife.
Rosa is the love of my life. She's my soulmate. She's my rock and she's my best friend. So weird, the whole thing.
It is weird, it's surreal.
And that makes Rosa his ally as John goes into battle in the district court to fight the charge of rape, which carries a maximum 14 years in jail.
In this case, my greatest fear was that an innocent man would be locked in a jail cell. I just want you to tell the truth and to tell it straight.
Also in John's corner is Chris Murphy, one of Australia's most outspoken and unorthodox defence barristers.
That's all I require from you. You are not combative. You are a witness. I think if someone had brought common sense to it, it would have been terminated by the police on the first day.
So why wasn't it?
Well, they tell me that the Director of Public Prosecution's office is occupied by a number of senior barristers all hoping to become judges. They don't want to be party to dropping a case against someone that's been Me Too'd. He went through this monstrous situation. Your grandfather's a rapist, your father's a rapist. This anonymous smear of an outstanding man's life and unable to answer for it.
When we first caught up with John and Rosa, months out from the trial date, the pain of living with being publicly accused of historical rape by a former flatmate who is legally protected by anonymity was obvious. Why 43 years on do you think this allegation has been made against you? Why now?
The allegation was made in the year that the Me Too movement was going crazy. Also, when I received the phone call, I was in Wolf Creek Series 2, 65 years old and at the top of my profession, having worked my bum off for 40-odd years. I feel that this person has looked at all that and thought, this guy's got a few bucks, he's doing all right. That's what I think. That's my opinion. That I think that she thought, you know, we can pick on John Jarratt because he's playing a psychopathic serial killer.
No worries.
Jarratt's slow burn career was at its heady peak in 2017.
You let me help you kill him.
Hey, you're a funny bugger.
So the allegation couldn't have come at a more damaging time.
I feel very cheated because my career has ground to a halt. I'm unemployable. I'm trying to find out how the hell I'm going to pay my lawyers and all the other debts that I've incurred through 2 years of unemployment. That's where I'm at.
It doesn't sound good.
Happy days.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah. So that's cost us dearly. Yeah.
Have you been surprised by how low John has got over the last year and a half?
He is the wounded lion at the moment, really wounded, gutted. It's scary to realise that when someone can be taken to that edge to even go as far as taking your own life, that is really scary. That's what could happen in this scenario. So it's not light entertainment for people's pleasure, you know, to say, ooh, has he, did he, didn't he, you know, ooh, scandal. It goes, you know, it's just so deep and so cruel.
For 20 months, John could do nothing but wait for his case to go to trial. An interminable time to live with the stench of being a suspected rapist.
You get up every morning and it's there, and you can't do anything about it. I call it media death row. You're just stuck in it, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's the waiting for the trial that kills you.
Monday, July 1st, day one of the most critical week of John Jarratt's life. An hour before court, and John meets with Brian Wrench, Chris Murphy's lead lawyer.
We've done all the preparation. It's sort of like the roller coaster, you know.
Click, click,
click, click, click. We're getting to get up, and once the jury starts, it's just going to go up, down, all around, you know, twists and turns and things like that.
Brian will be by John's side in and out of court all week.
You know, like I said, this is not a game, it's serious. I feel very good about this.
And we've been given unprecedented access to this court process, no matter the outcome. The time has come. I mean, is this a day that you welcome, or is it one you dread?
I welcome it. Yeah, I'm very, very happy that this day has come. I'll just bring it on, bring it on.
So this is a defiant John Jarratt we're seeing this morning?
No, innocent John Jarratt you're seeing.
But the opening day would prove to be a confronting one for John. His accuser gave her account to the court via video link. In her testimony, she claimed on a night 43 years ago, John burst into her bedroom. She awoke to him pulling off her bedding and ripping her underwear and t-shirt off in one go.
Tell us what happened at 3 o'clock on this particular morning when you were in your bed.
Well, I was woken to someone pulling the sheets and the blanket off my head in a very quick motion. Then my underwear was torn off me in one go.
She says he managed to pin her down with one arm while using his other hand to cover her mouth to stop her screaming.
Then this person, who I know for a fact was John Jarratt, jumped on top of me fully clothed, including the leather jacket, and unzipped himself, and yes, performed sex on me.
And I'm thinking, how can you just sit there and look at me and say that? How can you do that? You know, how can you be so full of lies and say something so horrible about me? My God, I haven't done anything to you. I haven't. We both did the wrong thing. The wrong thing. Not a criminal thing. The wrong thing.
What year was that? So that we're all clear.
1976.
I think earlier in your evidence you said 1975. I know it's a long time ago, but you have just said 1976. Can you recall which year?
I've got them mixed up. I've never been good with dates.
As witnessed by John and Brian, much of her evidence was faltering and confused, but the headlines were unforgiving. Have you seen some of the headlines already coming out of there?
No, I don't want to.
Okay.
No, I don't want to.
You got to. This is what you're faced with, you know. John Jarratt tore a woman's clothes with force.
That's why I didn't want to read it. I don't want to read that. Don't want to read it.
I know.
No.
But this is the reality for you, isn't it?
But I know that because I've been around a long time. I know what they're going to write, and the week's going to get better, and I'm okay because I know I'm just in this horrible place that I don't belong in, you know.
Brian, too, is glad day one is over. Tomorrow they take on the accuser under cross-examination.
Yeah, tomorrow's a big day for us because we actually finally get to test her version. We've got a lot of serious questions and serious answers. Look, just say relax. That's all you can do. Like, it's just hold the course.
Thanks, mate.
Coming up.
My wife's sitting in the room. My wife.
The accuser's story.
I got your husband, you know, I was able to sleep with your husband.
And how Jarratt's legal team pulled it apart.
I've never seen a more undeserving, weak case.
What do you think the motivation was behind this accusation? That's next on 60 Minutes. Tuesday and day two of John Jarratt's trial. Since being accused in 2017 of historical rape, John has had plenty of time to think about what he describes as a one-night fling 43 years ago. Still, as he prepares for another day in court, where he will share the intimate details of that encounter, he's overcome by shame. Right now it's very personal for you, isn't it? I mean, you don't really want any of this heard in court, do you?
Well, no. You know, it's bad enough that I've got to talk about having consensual sex with somebody and describing it. Imagine having to talk about it. And also, my wife's sitting in the room. My wife, you know, who I cheated on at the time. You know, I'm admitting that, but I didn't particularly think I'd have to admit it to the entire planet.
As they will do every day this week, John's wife Rosa and their two daughters, Zadia and Ebony, support John in court. Today there'll be more of the distressing allegations, but this time the accuser will be under cross-examination.
She's got to have a day in court. She has to be listened to, as I need to be listened to, as bipartisan as you possibly can. You just take in, you hear the language and the jury makes up their mind for what they hear, you know. So, and my truth will out.
This is a classic case of he said, she said. With no physical evidence and the alleged attack so long ago, the jury can only judge one word against another's. Under cross-examination, the version presented by the complainant was contradictory. Under pressure, she admitted, despite the attack, to a long, ongoing friendship with both John and Rosa, including sharing breakfast with the couple the morning after she was supposedly raped by John, and going on holidays with his wife. John also got her a job on his film, Summer City.
Right, Sandy, there you go. Hi, how are you?
And so this woman was your flatmate at that time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was anything ever said? Did you talk about it
No,
together
nothing was
again?
said ever from that point on. It was a bit awkward for the first few days, and we sort of forgot about it, moved on, and continued to you know, a reasonable friendship, not close, but she did keep seeing us on and off.
In court, the woman claimed years later she told Rosa she'd been raped by John. Rosa remembers the call, but says there was no mention of rape.
It was only a one-night stand and nothing, you know, but, you know, what a bastard, you know, what a cheat. He cheated on you with me, you know.
So at that stage, did she suggest in any way that John had raped her?
No, it was sex. It was an infidelity.
And she used the word one-night stand?
Mm-hmm. But prior to that, it was he cheated on you with me.
Did she ever tell you that John raped her?
No.
By this time, Rosa already knew from John about the infidelity. He'd told her some years prior, and they had since split, the marriage failing under other pressures.
Did you have a role or some visit to a movie that Mr. Jarratt was making up there in the north of Queensland?
No.
The cross-examination continued. The woman was asked if she'd visited John on the set of a movie he was making in Cairns in 1986.
No.
She was adamant she had not, until the defence presented photos of her at the film's wrap party.
You attended that party?
Yes.
Confronted with that evidence, she admitted she had in fact initiated contact with John, her alleged rapist.
You had no need to seek out the society of a man you say had raped you.
I had to put that incident to the back of my mind for a good long time, and I can tell you at that party it came to the front of my mind, and that was the last time I ever saw him or wanted to.
In that photograph that shows everybody apparently having a jolly scene, had the alleged rape come to the front of your mind?
Yes.
Did you leave?
I left at the end of the night.
Here she is, 10 years later, bringing me up and coming onto a movie set. That was a really strange way to behave if I did anything like that disgusting rape tale that she tells.
She visited a film site that he was filming on and used his name and said he's a friend of mine. This is not the behaviour of someone who's been raped.
For John's legal counsel, Chris Murphy, this is a turning point. Day 2 of the trial has the prosecution struggling.
I've never seen a more undeserving, weak case. And the problem when you put cases up with no evidence, you get bad results.
Adding to John and Rose's growing frustration, some of the reporting of the trial, come day 3, doesn't reflect what's actually going on in the courtroom, failing to mention the contradictory testimony of John's accuser, instead painting the worst picture of him. So, John, a little bit of anger this morning from you.
Yes, there were plenty of things that were said that they should have pulled her up on and should have been reported. Let's bring down the well-known person is the name of the game in media these days.
So that's what you think it's about? You don't think they think this is obviously a very serious allegation and that's shaping the reporting?
It's a very serious allegation, and they should be writing the terrible things that she says happened to her with this rape that didn't happen. That's fine, I understand that, but I should get balanced reporting too. I'm just painted as this, so far, as this black, evil thing that I'm not. Slept in.
It's now John Jarratt's turn. He doesn't have to, but has decided to take the stand in his own defence. Lawyer Brian Wrench understands the risk.
There are no reruns. There are no cutouts. There's no editing. It's raw. This is it. It's either, and the either jury accept it or they don't accept it, and that's the difficulty of this. You only get one shot at this.
I can't act it because it's truth. I'm not being an actor. I'm being a person wrongly accused. Yeah. So if I get a bad ending, you know, I've been hung for something I absolutely didn't do, and I can't see that happening.
Coming up, make or break for John Jarratt.
I just kept calm. I just kept remembering that, hey, you're innocent.
And the heart-stopping moment when the jury reaches a verdict. What if the jury believes her?
Talking about jail time.
Plus, when the truth hurts. Was any part of you angry? Were you angry with him? Angry with him for being such an idiot? That's next on 60 Minutes. For all his performances in his long career, today will be John Jarratt's most important. He's about to go on the stand to fight for his freedom against an accusation of rape 43 years ago, which he maintains is a lie.
I just kept calm. I just kept remembering that, hey, you're innocent. You know, got nothing to fear.
First, the court heard John's denials.
You're a person here voluntarily. You're a suspect for the offence, but you are not under arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes.
When he volunteered this interview to police in early 2018.
It is unimaginable to me that I could ever have sex with a woman against her will.
But under cross-examination, the heat was soon on.
I put it to you that, in fact, you did commit this rape and forced her to submit to intercourse with you by using physical force. And it was by force from you that you were able to have intercourse with her.
John stood his ground, repeating that his encounter with his accuser was a regretted one-night stand, and that there was no doubt it was consensual. But the accusations kept coming.
You know the truth is that the intercourse happened without her consent?
The prosecutor was doing the prosecutor's job.
Yes.
And was suggesting that you were lying.
Yes.
Over and over again.
Yes.
Said you were lying.
Yes, yeah.
What was that like?
Well, he asked me, had I raped the woman, and I said no. And then he went on and talked about this false story that she's made up. And I'm going, no, no, no. And after about 4 no's, I said, I told you that I didn't rape the woman, and what you're asking me is her fantasy. And the answer to all of this is no.
Rosa, what was it like for you to be in that courtroom today?
Oh, it's horrendous. Horrendous what the prosecutor did today.
And you are well aware that at the time you forced yourself on her.
As you're listening to this indiscretion being aired, the detail of that being questioned, was any part of you angry?
Very much so. I just wanted to stand up.
Were you angry with him? Angry with him for being such an idiot all those years ago.
I've had that time, though. I didn't have to have that time. We've had that conversation. We've had... we've gone into all of that, you know, way before this.
Were you able to forgive John?
It wasn't easy. I think there's layers of forgiveness. It's not an easy thing to forgive straight away. But, you know, we've been able to work through it.
I put it to you that you have made up a story about it being consenting sexual intercourse.
What if the jury believes her? They don't believe you. What do you face?
Or I don't want to think about that.
But we're not talking about a fine if you're convicted.
No, we're talking about jail time. You know, that's why I'm not considering it. But yeah, I still freak out at 2 o'clock in the morning saying, what if, you know, but I'm human. Everyone got to think like that.
It's been an anguished 2 years of waiting for John and his family. Waiting to clear his name, waiting to reclaim his life. But finally, Friday, the 5th of July, is Judgment Day. All evidence has been heard, and so today the jury will retire to consider it in the case against John Jarratt.
When the jury goes out, it's the longest wait of your life. You don't know whether it's going to be 5 minutes, 5 hours or 5 days.
$12:20, just before lunch, and the jury goes out. Hey.
G'day, how are you?
John and lawyer Brian Wrench retreat to the chambers. There is nothing more for them to do but wait and worry. How are you feeling?
It's in the lap of the gods. You know, we've put our best foot forward and just got, you know, our faith in 12 members of the jury. Yeah.
Brian, I think this is the edgiest I've seen you this week.
Yeah, well, it's a time to see if we did a good job, you know. It's, like I said, this for me is the most real of it. Either an innocent man goes into custody or an innocent man walks out, and there's no more real outcome than that.
They settle in for what could be a long, tense wait. John's future, his very freedom, now in the hands of 12 strangers.
Just hang in there.
You give me a ring, eh?
Yep.
But not long after Brian leaves, John gets the call to head back to court.
Hey, mate.
Aside from their lunch break, the jury has been out for just 15 minutes.
This is the walk to your fate, isn't it?
My long walk to freedom.
You hope? Yeah.
So how long have we got? 15 minutes?
Straight away. We're gonna
they could be... You mean they could be there when we get there?
Yep.
Moses, OK. Well, we better hurry up.
The last 2 years, these last 5 days, now all come down to this. Deep inside the Downing Centre, in Court 2, John will stand in the dock as the jury foreman reads out the decision of his peers. The verdict is unanimous and poignantly brief. Not guilty. John has always maintained his innocence, but he's overcome by relief and elation.
Freedom!
To be judged so by the court.
Freedom! 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 Oh, freedom!
It's a celebration that engulfs his family.
12 strangers sat in a room and they looked at John Jarratt and they listened to him. And they watched the TV screen and listened to this woman. And they didn't believe her.
And his triumphant legal team, including Chris Murphy.
John Jarratt, not guilty? No, innocent. Damaged, hurt, and all those around him that loved him were hurt. And all those people out there in movie land that admire him hurt. He's not Wolf Creek. He's an actor in Wolf Creek. In real life, he's a victim.
Coming up.
He has that label, basically, for the rest of his life.
Has Me Too gone too far?
It brands all men as sexual offenders.
And John Jarratt's terrible...
Didn't tell anybody. I didn't consider going to the police.
Painful.
I was 13 and...
Secret. That's next on 60 Minutes.
Graham Blundell, thank Christ for that. What an ordeal. Hopefully you can resume a life and a career. Blundell.
As the celebration continues for John Jarratt, Rosa and their family, tributes pour in.
Brian Brown, thank God. I know it's been horrible for you and the family, but what a relief, lots of love from Sam.
Many from the film industry, an industry from which the Me Too movement was born, for both victims and perpetrators. John's friends, as well as many strangers in the legal profession, were bewildered and concerned when he was charged with rape, including veteran lawyer Greg Walsh.
In Mr. Jarratt's case, what's happened, he's had an ordeal by fire, and it's not going to stop. Even though he's been vindicated, he's been found not guilty, there are many people out there in the community who say, well, where there's smoke, there's fire. You know, he must have done it. And he has that label, basically, for the rest of his life.
Walsh believes now more than ever there is hysteria surrounding sexual assault allegations, where the discretion to determine who should and shouldn't be prosecuted is being lost.
I think the problem with the Me Too movement, with the greatest of respect, is that it has the potential of going too far. First of all, it brands all men as sexual offenders. It encourages women to believe that all men are sexual offenders.
And is that where we're at with the Me Too movement? Is that what you're saying?
We could well be at this time if people in an ideological sense are encouraged to believe that anybody charged with sexual assault must be guilty, then that's a very dangerous notion.
If the justice system, the police department, is responding to the current ideology, isn't that a terrible miscarriage of justice?
It can be.
The potential for it is massive.
And there's a great risk of exponential increase in risks of miscarriages of justice.
As awful as the experience has been for you,
Yes.
are you sadly, but simply, collateral damage in a system that we have that is not perfect, but the system that we must have?
I am collateral damage.
Weary eyes watching a cold, dark sea.
The law says that I'm innocent until proven otherwise.
Truth and lie are mixing up, mixing up.
But under the law, the media was free to name an innocent John Jarratt as a man accused of rape. It could not, and still can't, despite the verdict, identify his accuser. John wants the law changed where neither party is named unless someone is convicted.
And I happen to be well known, which makes it a million times worse. The person who is the perpetrator of an evil lie walks away scot-free with a suppression order. That's wrong.
In the case of sexual assault charges, do you believe that anonymity for the accused is the answer to redressing the potential imbalance?
I think it's something that we really need to look at because it's gone too far. An accused person today, unfortunately, is perceived to a great extent, to a larger extent, as being guilty, and that's wrong.
Much of John's hurt and outrage stems from something far more personal than being forced to go through what he thinks is a flawed legal system. In a startling revelation, John discloses he knows what it means to be a true victim.
It's a really terrible thing because I am a part of the Me Too movement because I was raped when I was 13.
It's a candid and raw insight into the man he is today.
The idea of raping somebody is the most shocking thing in the world. I've been raped. I know what it's like.
Did you ever, tell your parents? Did you ever consider going to the police?
Didn't tell anybody. I didn't consider going to the police at all. I was in a boarding school, and I wasn't the only person who was interfered with.
Were you raped by a brother, or were you...?
I was raped by I was 13 and the guy was 18 as a student. Big guy, about 6'2". And I met the guy when I was as big as he was in my 20s, and he was in his later 20s. And I had the opportunity to give back to him with my fists what he gave to me through raping me.
John is now 66, at a time of life when most of us might think of sailing off into the sunset. But after nearly 2 years of public purgatory, as he puts it, it's time to start again, buoyed by the lovely Rosa.
He's very strong, very strong.
And a determination that his life will not be ruined or remembered by what he's been through.
I feel overall that the feeling towards me out there is that I've been badly done by, I think, for the majority of the public, and absolutely in my industry. They are some of my greatest supporters through this. Some of my best friends in the world, obviously, are from that industry, and they've held me up like you wouldn't believe. So I don't think that my reputation has been tarnished. I think it's been hammered, but I don't think it's been detrimental to my character. It's just been detrimental to my life.
If you feel you need help or support with any of the issues raised in this story, you can call Lifeline on 13 11 14. Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.